What's good, people? Welcome to another edition of Politricked, only on the Got What You Need network. Of course, I am your host, Sky. Today, not a long show, but we definitely going to discuss some things that I think are pertinent to what's going on in the country today. We definitely going to talk about Donald Trump's continued legal problems. And look, man, I don't want to keep harping on the guy, but he doing a lot out there, and what some people say he be doing the most. We also going to talk about Brett Farve. Yes, the story first broke in 2017, but since then, he's had to come back and explain lie after lie after lie. And in a recent, text exchange that was uncovered, it's believed that he knew a whole lot more than he led us to believe. So we're going to definitely talk about that a little bit more. Mike Lindell, name might not ring a bell, but if you heard of the My Pillow, then you probably know who he is. Well, his phone was recently seized by the FBI, and now he's being investigated into claims he made about the election back in Trump or whatever, man. And it's my thing, man. It's like, like who you like, vote for who you vote for, but like, why destroy your business over a man that don't really care about you? He only care about you because you like him. And finally, Alex Jones, my guy, man. He was real bold with, all the Sandy Hook stuff, and was on his podcast just going on and on about how it was fake and how the parents would pay actors. And so far, he's been made to cough up about, I believe it's like 40 million, 50 million, or whatever. And that number is going to grow. That was down, I believe, in Texas. He's in court in Connecticut now. And he got in court and said, hey, I apologized already. I'm not going to keep apologizing for what I said. I said what I said. And I'm like, dog, like, you really want to take that posture in a case where they about to hit you with some more money? And I start with him to just talk about the difference between having views versus having views that may be out of line with mainstream, controversial, but can have some truth to them, versus conspiracy theories. And Alex Jones, I might have said Alex Smith. Alex Jones is the worst when it comes to that. He could have said, man, oh man, these school shootings is, it's a little peculiar how that happening. Maybe we should investigate it more to see, what's the real cause. I don't think the cause is the kid who and him getting into a fight with his grandmother and killing her and then going and doing whatever. Maybe it's something else or whatever. But no, instead he made assertions. He posted things that backed these conspiracy theories. Of course, they were doctored. And now the law has finally caught up with him, and now he wants to play victim, and I'm not gonna keep apologizing. Like if I was the people, well, the parents of the kids that was suing, I wouldn't want his apology. Like, y'all know he don't mean it. You know what I'm saying? So, and him getting into it with the judge about that, I was just like, man, that's just a distraction. Like, let's get on to the meat of it, and let's go ahead and make another judgment so that people like him, know that they can't just continually they could do what they want, but they can't use their platform to spread lies. You know what I'm saying? All right, I want to speak on something from here. The plaintiff's attorney from the Alex Jones case, his name is Christopher Matai. He showed a video, right, from Jones Infowars web show in which he called the mass shooting phony as a $3 and called the parents, the victims, no, called the parents of the victims crisis actors. Um, uh, so then someone asked, like, if someone was to falsely claim that a group of families who had lost loved ones were actors and had faked their deaths and their loved ones, that would be a horrible thing to say, right? And in the context, it could be. Yes, he replied. You know, like, I get, like, some of the political infighting and even the vitriol that goes along with it, that has nothing to do with voting, people, progress, getting bills passed. It's all about just making the other side suffer or owning the other side or whatever, you know. But to me, it's a whole next new level when you decide to take somebody's pain, lie on it, and profit off the lies because people want to believe you. And they don't want to believe you because they don't think the people died. They're believing Alex Jones because the right feels like every time there's like a tragic shooting, a tragic mass shooting, that they're coming for our guns or whatever. My thing with that is, man, there's some people that I don't think y'all really want with guns. And to just, like, pull to have this country turn into just a wild, wild west, I don't know. It is not safe. And, yeah. So, I don't know, man. I don't believe everybody should be able to carry. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna just go there, and we can, you know, people could agree with me, disagree. I don't care. I believe that you should have to have more screening to get a gun than to get a driver's license. And right now that's just not the case, man. And in some places it's too easy to get a gun. You know, in some countries it's just too. I mean, not countries. In too many states. Excuse me. It's too easy. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about. It's already bad enough that like you have dark money, you know, flowing into these places when they identify a troubled kid or whatever. And I'm not gonna relitigate, you know, Buffalo or Uvalde, but both were cases where it were poor families, and both cases they had thousands of dollars of guns and ammunition. One was complaining about he couldn't afford clothes, but he had almost $3,000 worth of guns, body armor, and ammunition. You know, so yeah, like I said, we have to work on that too. But yeah, I was talked about your boy Trump at the beginning of the show. Letitia James, and she's the Attorney General out of New York, filed a $250 million lawsuit to recover from his company and basically essentially run the business out of state. she listed different documents, um, taxes, properties that were inflated to secure loans. I mean, it was just a litany and a laundry list of just lies. One property was valued at 75 million, and he reportedly inflated that to like 730 million. Like every single, and you say, well, you could. All right, if I'm talking to somebody and they be like, yo, how much is this worth? And I say, in his mind, I say, well, I think it's this. You probably didn't break the law. But when you fill out documents in order to secure bank loans based on you saying you have this as collateral and it's worth this amount and it's worth 10% of that, that's a crime. And then to report the property at one price to secure a loan, but then to report it on your taxes at a lower price to pay lower taxes. Once again, that's a crime. Donald Trump once said, the only people who plead the fifth are people who have stuff to hide. He pled the fifth 400 times. His son, Eric Trump, pled the fifth over 500 times during their question and deposition with the New York State Attorney's Office. Excuse me. So and now every interview, like he's back on Clinton or whatever, and people like this ain't gonna do nothing. No, he's probably not going to go to jail, but him doing business in New York is all but done, and that means that like Trump Towers, that's gonna be sold or put gonna be transferred to a new owner that doesn't have anything to do with him. He won't be able to rent those rooms and make that money, and he's not making a bunch in Florida, but besides at Mar-a-Lago, so it would be almost the beginning of the end, besides him hoping that people are going to the website to buy his ties that are made in China or whatever, or his hats that are made in China. And people get smacked for having the red hats on, so people ain't as bold with the red hats as they used to be. They used to be, out there with them. Yeah, I wish somebody would. I remember I saw it was a cop in Philly, right after Trump won, and he was like, yeah, I wish they would come, and all this type of stuff. Once again, this is a cop, like, bro. And I don't want to just harp on Philly because I stay in Central Jersey, a town called Perth Amboy, and I even posted a picture on IG. Spanish cop, with he had his hat on, but it had 45, engraved in, 46 engraved in the back of it or whatever. 45, because what, Bomber 44, yeah, Sucker 45 or whatever. And this was on election day, so were you not supposed to wear any, and he was going to be watching the polls. All the police, even undercovers, are on call or either assigned to different polling places, and especially the past election where all the drama, all the threats, of violence and things like that, and all those overzealous poll workers, harassing people who may not be voting the same way that they voted. So I thought that was some utterly clown shit. If I must say so myself. Oh man, Brett Farve, man. All right, let's just start here. If we were on the phone and no, let's say you overheard or you saw a text exchange from me where I said, "Hey, if you give me this money, is there any way for the media to find out?" Whether you knew what was going on or not, you like you would kind of think like, who's giving him this money and where's it coming from and why is he worried about keeping it a secret? That's at the very least, right? Now let's add to that this is going on in the poorest state in the union. All right? A state where the state capital, even before we recently found out how bad the water crisis, many in the city said they didn't trust the water for over 20 years. So we have that as a backdrop, all right? Now, what we know is that there was a scheme to divert federal welfare money to build a volleyball stadium that could cost more than $5 million at the University of Southern Mississippi. And like I said, the text, if you were to pay me, he wrote in 2017, a 1.1 million proposal for promotional efforts that would actually be funneled towards building stadiums. Is there any way the media could find out where it came from and how much? Several years of text messages about the project came to light, and they were filed. They were filed in court, as evidence. And they were filed in court as evidence because he constantly lied. Brett Farve constantly lied about him knowing where the money came from, him knowing that it was coming from poor people. And now we know that even the former governor, Phil Bryant, he's involved, and a gentleman by the name of John Davis, who served as executive director of the Mississippi Department of Human Services under Governor Bryant, pled guilty to both federal and state charges of embezzling federal welfare funds. Millions of dollars were transferred to friends and relatives, these court documents say. And according to a lawsuit filed by the state in May, around $5 million was diverted to Ted DiBiase, a flamboyant retired wrestler, once known as the $1 Million Man, and two of his sons, as well as various entities connected to them, including a ministry. And much of the money went to fictitious services, bogus jobs, first-class travel arrangements, and even one son stay at a luxury rehab center in Malibu, California, that cost $160,000, according to the lawsuit. And not to be fair, former high school football star. He was supposed to go on and be one of the greatest football stars and probably running backs at least in college and NFL history. He played at Oklahoma for a brief period. He go by the name of Marcus Dupree. He was paid to act as a celebrity endorser and motivational speaker, and he did not perform any of the contractual services towards the $371,000 he received to purchase and live in a sprawling residence with swimming pool, adjacent horse pastures, in a gated community. Oh man. Look, man. I guess it revolves around Favre for this reason. The other guys were big in Mississippi, but Brett Favre earned over $140 million during his NFL career. And then he was paid $1.1 million for speeches he never gave. He also orchestrated more than $2 million in government funds be channeled to a biotech company startup, which he had invested in. All right. But to be fair, none of the three that I just named, well, DiBiase, Marcus Dupree, or Brett Farve, have been charged yet. According to documents, Brett Farve has paid back, I think, $800,000 of the $1.1 million. But my whole thing is, what about the $5 million for the volleyball? Like, my whole thing is Brett Farve could have raised that money. Easy. Like him, few of his friends, they could have raised that money. They could have came up with that money, $5 million. And then if you see the volleyball stadium, you're going to be like, yo, where my change at? Like, I'm telling you, Google Southern Mississippi Volleyball Stadium, and trust me when I tell you, you're going to be like, whoa, $5 million? I need some change, and I need a lot of that. And I just harp on the Mississippi story so much because the state capital is without clean drinking water as we speak. There are people that have lived there all their life that said they haven't trusted the water in that city, once again the state capital, for over 20 years, for decades. They've been just doing what they have to do, but they haven't been using the water out the faucet, or if they have, it's been boiled, or they've been using bottled water, or what have you. So this new crisis where it's obvious and now they're trying to actually fix it, was nothing new to them. My thing is, even if that money came from another fund that was for things being fixed in the state, I would have a serious problem with it. But the fact that they knew they were taking money from the poorest people in the poorest state, and in 2022, the capital of that state is can't currently use their faucet with confidence to produce clean or just usable water, whether to drink, whether to cook, whether to bathe. And we're hearing that these gentlemen, all of them, doing better than the people they took money from, brought up this scheme, cooked up this scheme, and it was all about greed, and it was all about just taking the money and putting it in their individual pockets. So we talking Marcus Dupree, we talking Ted DiBiase, who wrestled as the $1 Million Man, and we talking about Brett Farve, an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback, made $140 million playing. He made more endorsements until he started, being a closet MAGA, and that's what it is. Some companies gonna embrace that. Some companies gonna be like, nah, man, we a startup. and I'm hearing that those wristbands and knee bands and all that type of nonsense that him and Jerry Rice was promoting didn't work anyway. But I didn't use it, so I'm not gonna jump on that or whatever, man. But so somebody a few days ago was like, the story's old. I'm like, the story's old, but it's now coming to light. And if the chief executive for the governor that Brett Farve was working directly with has just pled guilty to everything that's being accused, You don't think that he's providing more evidence? You think he just, like, this ain't one of Trump followers. So you think he just pleading guilty and he gonna just take the fall? No. He's already provided documents. That's why we got text messages, all types of stuff to let y'all know, hey, I was acting on orders from my supervisor, at the time, the governor of the state of Mississippi. So what do you want me to do? And that's why I say that there's more to it, and Brett Farve really needs to watch himself. Like, jail time might be strong for any of them, but like for someone who already like had just the worst reputation from even like the sexual harassment charges or whatever, and then even though it's like, come on man, white man from Mississippi, you think he ain't MAGA, but then for him to come out and be so openly bold with it or whatever, it was wild as well. But now to know that he's a lying ass thief, and he knew he was taking money from poor people, people that needed it way more than him. That $5 million that he got diverted, that is people in once again the poorest state in the union needed that money way more than Southern Mississippi needed a volleyball stadium. But since his daughter went there, he wanted to be, big man or whatever. And I believe that's his alma mater as well or whatever. So he already, the guy, down there or whatever. But once again, Google that stadium, look at it, and I guarantee you, y'all gonna say, $5 million, where? Huh? So that's what it is, man. There's still time in each and every state to register to vote. Early voting will be starting soon in some states, so please. They even posted on Facebook, are you registered, how you register in your state or whatever. So there's so many different ways that you can find out the information. You can find out if you're eligible to vote early in your state. If you are, please do. Every election day, guys, we see these lines. And these lines on election day are by design. Because they're only in the urban areas. They're only in the places where a lot of black and brown or progressives vote. Because they want you to get tired. They want you to get tired of standing there and then say, nah, I'm good, I'm going home or whatever. So if you could vote early, if you could vote like absentee, and it doesn't have to be like you're out of town or whatever. If you work and you do a job in which you can't get off for the day, that's a legitimate excuse to fill out an absentee ballot. In my state, like I'm in New Jersey, man. I say for the last 8 years at least, I've been voting by mail. Get my ballot in the mail, chill, look at it, read over it, do some research if needed, fill it out. I guess in 2020, I had to I dropped it in a Dropbox or whatever. But before that, I was just putting it in the mail. I'll get something back saying that my ballot was received and done. Didn't have to move, didn't have to do anything. So I know in a lot of red states, they want to force you to go to the polls on election day because they want to make it harder for you to vote. In some of those states, they still have early voting options, and like I said, everybody that has the option to early vote by mail or vote absentee should do so. And for those who know that they're going to be out on election day, they should start making a plan now. If you have a job and it's not one of those what they call um, vital services, essential service. Essential workers. I still got beef with y'all, but we ain't gonna go there yet. Provide essential services, so you might can use it as a reason um, to get one. Then you know that you're gonna be you're gonna be out there on election day. So make a plan, get out there early, and bring your water. Now, in some states, you can't pass it out because they saying that they're going to provide it. They're not, but they don't want you to help anybody who might be out there sweating too hot or whatever. And be like, here, don't leave here. Here's a bottle of water. Nah, they want them to go home. So, but like I said, heat and age, elderly, that's everybody. And I just think that some of these rules they're making are gonna backfire. But some of them are gonna do the job to deter people. Once again, man, that's my time. Appreciate y'all rocking out with me. Please be sure to check out the other podcasts on this great network. So we talking the Black Male Podcast. We talking Life and Love. We talking Ian Friends. We talking the Encourage and Inspire podcast, with many more to come. Till next time, peace, and appreciate y'all support. Thank you.